What's good, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Get Defensive Sports Network's Power 2 podcast. As always, I'm your host, Jordan, and I'm here with my co host, DJ.
Yes. Yes. Welcome to another episode of Get Defensive Podcast. This is not Get Defensive Podcast. This is Power 2 Podcast. Sorry.
See,
Get
this
Defensive
is what
Sports
happens
Network.
when you try to steal my shine.
I wasn't trying to steal your shine. I actually got thrown off because I couldn't tell if you could hear me or not. Anyways, hey.
How you breathing?
I am taking each breath very, very carefully. How about you?
Maybe not as careful, but I am breathing.
You know, that's all we can do in these days and times. In these ghetto world. How was your week? What's cooking with you?
It was a week. And I don't even say that like it was a bad week. It was just a week. You know, sometimes you have days and weeks that just sort of go past. Like they just kind of happen. It was one of those. Nothing
Yeah.
special, nothing spectacular. Not good, not bad. It was a week that existed. Days happened. The next day happened. And here we are recording the podcast.
I agree. It was a pretty boring week because I had to wait until Thursday for basketball again. We'll talk about that in a second. Um, but other than that, yeah, I was just chilling, doing that little job.
Paying some bills. You know how it
Oh my gosh,
goes.
please don't talk about bills because I still cannot believe my parents brought me into this world knowing that I would have to pay bills one day. Like, I just feel like that's so irresponsible. And I talk to them about that constantly about like, you knew that one day there was going to be mail coming to my house with my name on it and a dollar amount, and you did nothing to avoid that.
No. Childish. Um, should be illegal. We should be able to sue for back pay. We will talk
Yes.
about back pay today, but not of the kind that you could request from your parents, unfortunately. Anyways, to get into the news, there is some good news, there is some whatever news, and then there's some,
Interesting news.
yeah, we're covering all the things. The good news, the great
Yes.
news, the wonderful news is Coco Gauff won the French Open. Shout out to Coco Gauff. Um, Love that for her. As a reminder of those who care ish but don't know, Coco Gauff just turned 21. She won
Hmm.
her first major at 19.
Hmm.
So we are going to get a lot of Coco Gauff. And this is exciting. I don't watch tennis or pay attention to tennis, but I love black women in tennis. So I always kind of have like an idea of what they're doing. She's the first American woman to win the French Open since Serena did it 10 years ago.
Hmm.
And because that dusty ass rapper decided to get Naomi Osaka pregnant.
Oh
We
yeah.
we just haven't had, like we didn't go on the run that we thought we were going to go on. Naomi was out, came back, was losing a little bit. Coco, as is the typical case when you're 20 and you're playing against 28-year-olds, like she struggled a little bit, and then in the last year she kind of like came back on. She got all the way up to number 2 in the world, I believe, and then she won the French Open against a hater
The
who,
biggest hater ever.
like,
I have
be for
never
real.
seen such.
Well, I think Maria Sharapova was the biggest hater,
I see. I
and
haven't seen
everyone
that.
tried to see. Okay, so Maria Sharapova was Serena Williams' rival, quote unquote, who
Oh
almost never beat her, who just got
yes.
spanked around for like 10 years, but it was a rivalry. I think she may still get the biggest hater card, but this girl's trying it because this is the same girl who Coco beat in
And
2 years ago.
for her other
So
major, yeah.
yeah, for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, Shorty lost, and instead of being a good sport, and I don't even mean like good, when I say good sport, I don't mean the like you should smile and defeat and all this other kind of things. Just don't like talk
Don't
shit.
be a
That's all I
hater.
mean by good
Don't say
sport. Like
stupid
don't be a
stuff.
hater. Like
Don't
you can
say
be
weird
sad, you
shit.
can be upset, you can critique yourself, you can do whatever. Like I'm not saying you have to smile and wave and give out hugs and kiss babies, but like don't go up there and lie. And so basically, she was up there basically saying, I think Coco only won because I made
Because I
mistakes,
made
not because
mistakes.
she played well. That's not true. Seeing that, and the one that you
She
were
came
maybe
back from being
potentially,
down sets. That's literally impossible. That's
yeah, like
literally
she
what?
literally came back. And I don't even know enough about tennis to fully explain this, but she came back. She forced a tiebreaker. She ended
Hmm.
up losing the first set, right? The one that she forced a tiebreaker, and then she
Hmm.
dominated the next two. Like, yeah, you did make some mistakes, but you didn't lose just off those mistakes. Coco was
You
playing
lost
well.
because
Like
you lost.
just say that. You don't have to try to down her and be like, oh yeah, she. It's not that she played well. I just made mistakes. Well, how about this? Don't make mistakes. How about that? How about
Be
she played
perfect.
well and you made mistakes? Like how, like you know what I mean? Like don't try to take away from her victory. Talking about, oh, I lost it. I made mistakes, and that carries. It don't carry weight for us because we don't care. But like it carries weight in specifically a 1v1 sport, right? Like you're directly trying to take away from the person that beat you. It's not like a team sport or anything
Hmm.
like that where it's like, oh, I made mistakes or bad game, like all these sort of things. Like, no, no, no. It was you and her, one on one, however many hours. And she smacked you up. That's cool. You lost.
And it's also just like, it's the optics, right? Because if Coco would have lost and sat there and said that about her, then Coco would have been childish
Mm.
and unsportsmanlike and every word in the book. And why can't she be graceful or whatever other bullshit they always want to bring up and make up for how the standards of Black women how are supposed to meet that nobody else is supposed to meet. And that's what pisses me off too, because it's just like you could have had some grace and you could have had some class, but you chose to be a hater and you chose, and it's weird. It's just weird to sit there and not own your own mistakes and say like, hey, you know what? I messed up a few times. Coco got the best of me. Like, good luck. Like, good luck to her. Like, whatever, blah blah. Blah. Or, and this is may just be a crazy thought. Don't mention that girl's name at all. Don't talk about her at
That's,
all. Just say
you know,
what happened with you, what you thought about the matchup, whatever, blah blah. Looking forward to the next whatever they got going on Wimbledon. I don't know, and move on. Why would we have to do all this extra? Oh well, she only won because I made a lot of mistakes, but she trophy on her arm, no trophy on your arm,
and it wasn't that close for it
and
to
it
be a
wasn't
lot of
close.
mistakes. Like,
Like, what are we?
and and the other thing that I just think is funny, like let's just say this was true, right? Let's just say this was true. What does that say about you? Why'd you make mistakes in the biggest match? Like you know what I mean? Like that's not taken away from her. That's still taken away from
In the
you.
title
You went
matchup, you out
out
here making
and
mistakes?
and,
Couldn't be
and
me, sister.
like, come on, be for real. You know what I'm saying? Like that's still your problem. That's not her problem. That's your problem. Even if you
And
were
because
better than
basically
her,
what you're saying
and
is
you,
I made mistakes and she capitalized off of them.
so good job,
Like what?
Coco. Right? You know what I'm saying? Like right? Like we do that. We do that all the time in football. It's like Vanderbilt upset Alabama because Alabama made mistakes. Well, Alabama shouldn't have made mistakes. How about that? And this is a professional sport. This is a 1v1 sport. You can't even be like, I played good and my wide receiver dropped the ball. Like
Yeah, it's just
I
you.
made good and I pitched well and then my center fielder dropped it in error and somebody scored. Like you can't do none of that. Like you can't be like, oh, I set up the perfect pass and they kicked it over the net. Or my goalie, like you know,
Mm-hmm.
in all the team sports, you could maybe have played well, and so this is you. So
This
even
is
if it
your
was
fault.
true, do better. How about that? Because now we don't know. We don't know if it was mistakes or not. All we know is she smacked you up. We know that because my narrative now, if we're talking narratives, my narrative is that Coco, as a 21-year-old, was a little nervous.
Mm-hmm.
And so she let you come out to a lead. And then she locked in, almost got that lead back. You got lucky, won the first set, and then she settled in and smacked you up the next two. That's my narrative. If we're talking narratives,
If we're
that's
gonna
what
keep
happened.
it honest, that's pretty much what happened as well. So that's why I'm just like, I don't have time for that hating ass girl. I thought that was weird. I think it's so annoying when young Black women win and do well, and there's always a white woman somewhere crying, acting like something bad happened to her. And that's pretty much how it goes. Like, I hate to say it like that, but that's pretty much how it goes. Because again, to your point, I forgot about the Saprova lady because Serena Williams is one of the best people in the world to ever pick up a tennis racket. So I was never paying attention to who she was playing against. Um, but to your point, like it does give that. And I mean, a lot of people talk about this all the time. Like, it's just the way that these European tennis players talk about Americans. Like they
Mm-hmm.
always kind of have a little bit of like shade to it because realistically, Black people have been carrying American tennis for like 40 years.
Yes.
So there's also that, like, it's not just them talking about Americans, but it's about the fact that American tennis is only on the map if a Black person is doing well in it. Serena Williams, Coco Gauff, Naomi Osaka. I can't think of that dude's name, but there's a Black dude right now who's
Yes.
poised to be one of the first Black American males to win since Alvin Ailey. So it's like we carry the sport at the end of the day. So I feel like there's also just an undertone that comes with like when they're talking about us specifically and them just being mad that we be whooping their ass.
Yeah, I saw this thing that I thought was funny, and I want to be mindful how I say it because I'm not trying to crap on nobody else. But someone was like, they were talking about tennis and things like that, and there's like the thing is like, our best athletes don't play tennis. Like they don't. Our best athletes play soccer. Our best athletes play basketball. Our best male athletes, particularly,
Play
play
football
basketball,
and
football,
basketball.
and baseball. Right. So like, yeah, your best athlete is going. And that is your thing. That's what you do. That is what your. That's why y'all dominate, and that's why y'all win because your best athletes play tennis. But
Mm-hmm.
every once in a while, when we get one of them good athletes that decided somehow got introduced to tennis, right?
And they want to stay in it.
Somehow got introduced to whatever, we run it through. Like that's the thing. Like congratulations that like technically, you're getting smacked up in a sport that a lot of Americans don't care about unless there's a superstar. I can tell you what Serena did. I can't tell you nothing that happened in the
I
last
don't know
10 years. And then
nobody
Coco
else.
showed up, and I can tell you what Coco did. Like, and that's what tennis is for a lot of Americans, right? It's when we got somebody we care, and when we don't, we don't. And y'all had your little couple years. Y'all had your little couple years when Serena was out, and now you
And
got
we're
Coco
back.
to deal with it. Now
And
what?
we're back. And you'll be okay. You will be okay. Make less mistakes, and then we can have a conversation about whatever else. Like I don't know. I just don't like stuff like that. But anyways, this is not a bash European podcast. This is a
Hey,
congratulations
you
to
sure about
Coco
that? No,
Gauff.
I'm just kidding. You want to know what else I don't like?
What?
Aaron Rodgers signed to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Bro, why is Aaron Rodgers signing contracts? Why are
What?
teams, why are front offices saying, you know what? You know what the missing
You know
piece
what's
is?
gonna do it?
Aaron
Aaron
Rodgers.
Rodgers.
Like, how did we? Please, I want somebody to genuinely tell me how we got here because after he stunk it up with the Jets, I'm like, there's no way. Like, there's no way that there's going to be another team that's going to be like, yeah, we're going to make you our franchise quarterback. Like, there's no way. So when I saw, because I've been seeing the news popping up, and obviously, if you guys are unaware, we are obviously switching topics to the fact that Aaron Rodgers signed with Pittsburgh yesterday. Um, I've been seeing the news that he was like meeting with them and having workouts with them and doing all this other stuff, whatever. Like it's been buzzing for like a couple of months now that he could potentially like go over there. But I just don't understand why nobody in his inner circle is suggesting retirement. Like,
Because he don't
why
have no
is
friends.
nobody who loves and cares about him suggesting
No
retirement?
one loves and cares about him.
I'm confused because now, because in the Pittsburgh is a hard team to play for. Like their fans are insane. I don't want to play for it. Like there are certain teams where you can play for them and you can kind of get some stuff and whatever, and it's not going to be that big of a deal. The Jets, in my opinion, was one of those types of teams. The like Pittsburgh, you're basically you're running into the fire with that one, and you are not in your prime anymore. You're not playing your best football anymore. Like
Haven't for years.
haven't for years. And
And
Pittsburgh has championship blood. Like they're expecting to win a championship. I don't know why, but that is their vibe. Is that it's championship or bust up
but
there?
honestly, I don't even care about this from his point of view because at the end of the day, right? Like if we're looking at his point of view, just straight up, right? They're gonna pay you $13 million. Okay.
Yeah,
My issue is the Steelers side of it, especially because like this doesn't solve anything for them. Because at best,
nothing.
at absolute best, he plays 2 more years. But what is
Yeah,
most likely is he only plays one. So the problem is, even if you get him this year, and it's the same thing that a lot of people have doing, it's what the Colts were doing for a couple of years. It's just like you still have to get another quarterback, right? Like so, like you're gonna deal with Aaron, you're gonna deal with the Pat McAfee show, you're gonna deal with him trying to bring in
not the
all of
Pat
his
McAfee show.
friends and all of this sort of stuff and all the drama and all the stupid comments. You're gonna deal with all of that, and then next year you are still going to have to find a quarterback. So it's just like, how does
Yeah,
this help you? And like I understand, especially a team like the Steelers, like we don't tank and things like that. But I personally, I would have. I don't think he's
signing
good,
Aaron
but
Rodgers
I
is
would have.
tanking. What do you mean?
Listen, look.
What do you
To be
mean that
honest,
is tanking? Maybe they are
I would have.
tanking.
I would have played Mason Rudolph and or Will Howard because you're probably not going to be good this year no matter what, right? And if
Yeah,
you're not good with Aaron Rodgers, you can't bench him. Like I
yeah,
doubt they do that. If you're not good with Mason Rudolph, you can try Will Howard. If you're not good with
yeah.
them, then you have a definitive answer that the two quarterbacks in the building are not good enough. Let me go get one in the draft.
Draft one. Yeah,
But like to keep doing this thing, like it just doesn't make any sense. And you keep pushing it around, and then you're not even going to do it for a quarterback that's good. Like if you're going to do it, get Kirk Cousins because at least Kirk is still decent. and you could realistically have him for 2 or 3 years, right?
Exactly.
Like Kirk is gonna play a couple more years.
Aaron
Aaron's
Rodgers
not
looks like he's
good.
nearing retirement every game. Like
Yeah,
it looks like every single game is the game where this is where he's going to announce his retirement afterwards. Like I don't know, man. And we can make it about, oh, well, the Jets environment wasn't conducive for Aaron Rodgers. There was a coaching issue. There was he had to bring in, what's his name? DeAndre Hopkins, I believe, as a receiver because he didn't have nobody to catch the ball and blah 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 blah. Trying to make it about the Jets. I really don't think it's about that. And I think that we're about to find out, and we're gonna find out when he plays for the Steelers how much he really is the problem. No shade to Aaron Rodgers, but it makes me so sad when I see athletes who have been in the game for a long time almost like almost like do this weird thing where they start to tarnish their legacy because they're playing for too long.
let's talk about it.
I hate that. Like,
Well, Aaron Rodgers tarnished his by opening his mouth,
well,
but
yeah, yeah,
he's
yeah.
also tarnishing his on-field legacy.
Like his
And I
on
say this
field,
all the
yeah, yeah,
time,
yeah.
and you know this, and anyone who's listened to any of my shows for a while know this. I am the biggest advocate of retiring when you're on top.
Yes,
I think Tom Brady should have retired after the Tampa Bay Super Bowl. And no,
I
his
agree.
last couple of years weren't as bad as what Rodgers is doing, but he had a couple bad years in there when he could have retired on top. Peyton Manning retired on top. That was perfect, right?
Yeah,
Honestly, I get it because he's been great afterwards, but if I was LeBron, I would retire after the bubble championship. And like he's been
yeah.
good, but he hasn't had the team success, but like he's still playing good, so he doesn't really fit in this category. But like so
I would not
many
say he's playing
players,
too long. I would never. I would not sit here and
yeah,
say that at
so
all.
many players just lose it. They just lose it. Like why is CP3 still playing? You know what I'm saying? Like at this point, there is probably a decent amount of kids who don't know that CP3
Who don't
is
know
one
for
of the
real who
best
he
point
is?
guards.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's just quit it. Dwayne Wade played too long. His last couple years, I just act like they don't exist. Shaq played too long. Like it's just we don't have to do it, right? And
Shaq
so
did play too long. Charles
you're
Barkley played
not
too long too. But Charles
good.
Barkley was
Like
trying to get a championship.
yeah, but like yeah, it's just and especially when you're someone of that ilk, right? He has one ring, which is a you know
Yeah.
an interesting statement in itself for how good he's supposed to be. He has 3 MVPs or whatever it is, a bunch
Yeah.
of All Pros. Like he has a Hall of Fame resume. Like why are you still doing
What
this?
is the point of
Go
this?
go back to your darkness retreat.
And I
Get
feel
off.
like it's because I feel like he's trying to like become this pseudo like new Tom Brady type figure where it's like you're gonna win a Super Bowl at 40 or whatever. I need us to take serious deep breaths of fresh air outdoors and understand that Tom Brady is a once in a lifetime player and that everybody is not going to be able to win a Super Bowl at 40. Sorry.
Yeah, and also like how Tom Brady played quarterback made him age more gracefully.
Exactly. He's very
Tom Brady
distinctive.
was never the best athlete. He never
Yeah.
had the strongest arm, but he was accurate. He was smarter than most. Like he played in a way that you could age gracefully. That's not how
Yeah.
Aaron plays. Aaron plays with a rocket. He
Yeah.
runs around like Aaron has a certain style that it just hasn't aged as gracefully.
Yeah.
And
But
even like
and in Aaron's defense, you that style of quarterbacking does not age well. It
right,
just
which
doesn't.
is why he should have retired 6
Yeah,
years ago.
yeah.
But
Which I think is why there's such a big concern about where quarterbacking is going because it does shorten the lifespan of quarterbacks. Them playing outside the pocket as much as they do nowadays, but also like it makes the game more dynamic. It makes the game more fun. The rules protect them. They'll be okay. But yeah, I mean that style of play does age a little bit worse than the in pocket style quarterbacking that Tom Brady did. But it just makes me sad for Aaron Rodgers because it's like I'm not a fan of his in any way, but I'm a fan of athletes who have longevity. So it's just like what are you sacrificing for this pseudo longevity? Like you're making yourself look crazy.
yep.
So anyway, speaking of crazy, actually this is not crazy. Actually, you know what? This is kind of crazy because we just had this conversation last week about how Texas Tech and Texas Longhorns were playing each other for the softball championship. I thought Texas Tech was going to pull it out with Miss Najee. Najee, is that how you say her name?
Yeah.
Kennedy. I was not prepared for Texas to win that to win that championship, especially because it was just so hyped up and it was like, oh my gosh, she's this first $1 million player and she played so well in the championship. And that is all I can tell y'all because I don't watch baseball. See, I done said the wrong sport. I don't watch
Yeah.
softball.
Well, so I can tell you this, right? Texas won. and was supposed to win.
Yeah.
Texas has been the runner up either the
A
last
couple
2 years
years.
or two of the last 3 years. Like
Yeah.
they are inarguably the second best team in softball and have been for years. They've just been knocking on the door.
Yeah.
And if you're paying attention to like the tournament and things like that, Texas Tech was the number 12 seed. Like even with Najee, like they were good, but they weren't
They were the
great. And
underdogs.
so like they they made it this far because of how good she was specifically in the tournament. But like they had losses and they had lost games throughout. Like that's how you get the number 12 seed, right? So
Right.
I think
Right.
that in most cases Texas still should have been the favorite, and I think they were. But at the same time, like her run was crazy. Like
Oh, so
she
great.
almost. I don't want to disrespect nobody on the tech team, but I really don't. But she almost single handedly got them a championship. Like
By
and
herself.
like
Yeah, no, you're
that's
right.
that's crazy. So that's one of those like it's really sort of like losing is never good, right? But like it really is sort of a win-win because it's like Texas Tech paid $1 million for one player, and that player was so good that she got them into the championship for the first time ever, right? I think it was Texas Tech that upset Oklahoma. Obviously, someone
Yes.
did, but I think it was specifically them. You upset
Yes.
Oklahoma, the Alabama on the sport. You have this high-profile thing. You get her for another year, and when the transfer portal opens up, who's not going to want to go to
Who else
Texas
is gonna?
Tech, right? So you have a chance to do it again next year. But
Yeah.
then also for Texas, you finally do it after losing 2 or 3 years in a row, right? So
Yeah.
it's one of those things where it's for me, it's like it's a good story all the way around. Obviously, like maybe
Yeah.
it's a better story if Najee Kennedy wins because like then you really really get the underdog because you get this girl who's good at Stanford who goes and $1 million and takes Texas Tech to the top and then they upset Texas. Like that would have been an amazing story. But I still think it was a positive overall for everyone. Obviously, you want to win, of course, but like yeah, Texas Tech got probably more than what they thought, to be honest. Because I don't think anyone realistically thinks that one player is going to make you a championship. I think they would have been
Yeah.
happy
No.
with just
Yeah.
having a small run in the tournament, and they did way more than that. So yeah, it's almost kind of like the to a different extent, but it's almost like the Caitlin Clark Angel Reese effect, right? Where you have this sort of don't roll your eyes. I said both of them because
I
both of
know.
them count, but
I
she
don't even
did
want to
still
talk about
have
them anymore.
well, we don't want to talk about it,
Go
but
ahead.
it's true. Like that's what happened in women's basketball, and then you follow up them, and then you have Juju, and then you have him. Like you know
Yeah.
what I mean. And
Yeah.
so
And
I
Paige.
think and then I think it's going to be hopefully going to be a similar thing where you have Najee, right, and you have a couple of like you have these couple names, and you get her, and then more people watching. Now you have this person, now you have this person. You start to name people, you start to know these things and stuff, and so it's not going to explode like basketball because basketball men's and women's just has a different like placehold, but it is going to explode relative to that sport. It has the professional league now, which we talked about. Like it's just softball is also in a great spot.
That's what I was about to say. I was like, I think this was a use case where now it is proven that you should be investing in softball the same way that you're investing in these other big ticket sports. I was actually about to say the same thing. Like, I think this is now showing that, like, hey, we should be spending our NIL money on these softball athletes just as much as we're spending our NIL money on basketball and football. This is kind of where I've been wanting to get to is like, there's great athletes in other sports. Like, it's not just your basketballs and your footballs. I understand that those sports are the most revenue generating, so obviously you see them the most. But like, I would love to see the viewership information on the softball championships and how much that's growing and how it's on national TV and how, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like this is now proving that like it's a sport that should be invested in. And I hope that there's more girls that sign crazy contracts and things like that because I also just think that sometimes people like their brains start short circuiting when you say to invest in women, but we're not going to go there today. Um,
So yeah,
so
we did a lot of that last week, and we'll
yeah,
do it again. The one thing, and this is a spoiler, a teaser, if you will. The one thing that will make it hard for other teams to do that is going to be now the revenue sharing and the College
yeah,
Sports Commission. There, we'll get into that
we'll get
shortly,
there.
but there is going to be more sort of guidelines and things with NIL, and 100%. Like they were very, very open that her deal was to get her to transfer from Stanford. It was not that she doesn't deserve it, but to the rules that they're trying to create, it was 100% pay for play. and they're trying to get rid
Yeah.
of that. So there's going to be some more sort of balancing of the things. So it may be hard to pay that, which again is over $1 million, but that does not mean you cannot invest still
Yeah.
and invest more than what you currently are, of course. But
Because
we'll,
there's
we'll
money in it. There is
yeah.
money in softball. So it's not
And also,
like
my thing is just like not everything got to be about money. Like when your football team is making $80 million, I'm sorry. Like you don't gotta make a whole like
you
you
don't
don't
have to
have to
make
get
it back.
rich
Yeah.
off of
Yeah.
everything, right? Like
Yeah.
no, you now if it's putting you deeply in the hole. But the other thing is it's sort of like and it's sort of this thing where like they kind of put it in a way where it could make money, and this is not only softball, this is some other sports because they just took it out of everything, right?
Yeah.
Like softball is no longer in the Olympics. I think it's coming back, but it's
I
no
think
longer
it
in the
is
Olympics.
too.
Like so you
Yeah.
take baseball's out of it, like you take these kind of areas for it to earn money when you see it more, right? Like if you watch the Little League World Series, right, and then you see the Olympics, this calendar's wrong. If you watch the College World Series, and
I
then
was
in the
like, who?
summer you have the Olympics, and then in the fall you get the Little League World Series, and you're seeing softball of various types throughout the year, and it's not one organization, but you just kind of see it. It just kind of gets your eyes to it more, right? Like that's one of the benefits to the WNBA being in the summer because the basketball
Mm-hmm.
continues, especially if the NBA was marketing them better because then you could go from one to the other. But that's neither
Well,
here
they're
nor
finally
there.
starting to market it.
Um,
Thank God.
so it's just like it's just one of those things too where it's like yeah, like the investment also comes in other levels. It's just not the individual schools. It's also keeping it in the Olympics, which now is putting it back in the Olympics because they did
It was
obviously
there
have
and then it
gotten
went
rid of it
away.
for a
Yeah.
while. But like, yeah, it's these sort of things. So it's not one thing; it's kind of the whole thing, right? And so, yeah. But I mean, the
Shout out to
theme of this
Texas.
show is the power of supporting women. It does good things for you. Um, and shout out
Period.
to Texas. Shout out to Texas Tech. Shout out to softball and
Shout out to women's sports. So, speaking of,
sports.
well, this has nothing to do with women's sports, but did you, because you do realize this will not be a running question on the show of whether or not you actually watched the National Basketball Association basketball. Did you watch
No, I didn't.
Jordan? Okay, so I'll tell you guys
At
about
this
mine.
point, it's just kind of like
You're not watching it. Like you are
you'll
not
see me
watching it.
next year.
You like you have completely checked out of the NBA season, and I genuinely love that for you.
Yeah.
Um,
I was
I was
watching
watching
anime
it.
actually. I was watching something. I was like, "Oh, this game is on." But I was like, this
You
show
should have
is
watched it. It
good."
was fucking insane. It
Yeah.
was absolutely clinical. Like it was crazy. But basically what happened was, I mean, obviously OKC were the favorites to win. They were playing at home. They basically won damn near all of their home games this season, except for like, I don't know, something stupid like 5 of them. So they're the favorites to win and they come out swinging, right? They are up for the entire game. At one point, they have like a 20-point lead. Like it's giving very much everybody can just, we clear the benches. Like we don't need to have the starters in no more. Like we good vibes. So I remember it was like third quarter, they're up by 20 something. I'm like, this game is over. Like it's like 90 something to 70 something. Like, thank you so much, everybody. We can go ahead and move on with the rest of our days. So I start moving around because it's third quarter and it's fucking they're up by 20. So I start moving around because there's a couple like different places and stuff to do on Thursday nights in Dallas. So I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna go do something. I'm standing in line at a venue and the security goes, man, this game is insane. And I'm like, what is he talking about? Like they're up by 20. Like what? I pull up the ESPN app. Why the hell that thing say 109 to 110 with like, I don't even know how many seconds left in the game. I was like, did the Pacers, what happened? So I went back and I watched the highlights. You guys, what the hell? So basically, the Pacers are they are literally down for the entirety of the game up until about 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter, where Obi Toppin decides that he's just all of a sudden going to start being the best 3-point shooter we've seen in a while. He takes a three. Miles Turner takes a three. We've got Obi making another three. Miles Turner makes another three. And all of a sudden, they have come completely back from a 20-point deficit in a matter of about 3 minutes. And they continue to score. They continue to get the game closer. Obviously, OKC is continuing to score on top of this because they didn't really slow down as much as the ball. Like it just started to drop for them. The threes just started to drop for the Pacers. It really wasn't a matter of OKC making a lot of mistakes. And then once they got within once they got within one, it was 109-10. Pascal Siakam ends up making a 2-point shot. They end up taking a timeout. They come back out of the timeout. And then Tyrese Halliburton, being the comeback king that he is quickly becoming, takes a mid-range jumper and he makes the shot with 0.3 seconds left in the game. And this is why I believe the Pacers are going to win the championship, because you quite literally, even when OKC does what OKC does best, which is padding the score, that's how OKC has made it through this entire playoff series, is they've had the most wins by 40 plus points than any other team in the history of the NBA. They shut niggas out completely. That is their MO. But the Pacers have made it through the playoffs by having ridiculous comebacks, most likely off of the back of Tyrese Halliburton. So the fact that that happened, both of those things happened in the same game, we are in for some very, 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 very fun basketball. Like, I I don't know how else to sell it to you. I really don't. But for that to have been how the game turned out, when I'm like, we literally were sitting there like, yeah, it's over. Like, OKC is taking game one. It's at home. Like, we're good. But the other thing about that, well, pause. Thoughts.
Go sports. No, I'm just kidding.
Jordan, shut up. But the other thing about
mean,
that I think we should also take into consideration is it has been a good while since OKC has lost 2 games in a row. They just don't do it. So if they've lost this game, statistically speaking, they're supposed to come out tonight, Sunday night. So when y'all hear this yesterday, and win this game. So I don't know. But the Pacers are such a liability. They are so liable to come back that it's like, oh, you just don't know. It's so much fun.
yeah. Um, I wish that I could share your excitement. I really don't know what happened to me in basketball. It's
I
really
don't
like a
either.
this year thing because I did watch it last year. It's really like a this year thing. Honestly, a part of it is just like I just don't have cable. And for
I'm
some
so tired of
reason,
you and this cable.
all the games that I wanted to watch were on TNT. So, and then it's like I think it's one of those things that sort of like builds on each other, right? Like you watch one, and then you watch two, and you kind of keep doing it. I just kept forgetting about the games that were on ESPN somehow, and just like didn't match with my schedule. So then it got later and later and later, and then I just didn't watch it. And now it's just
And you
like
know
I'll
what really makes
probably watch the finals. Like I'll probably watch today, at least put it on my iPad because I know it's on ESPN.
yeah.
But yeah, it's just like it just got so far, and I couldn't watch some of them. It's just and like I'm a very casual fan, so
Yeah.
it's just kind of just didn't happen. I guess I don't know.
What upsets me, I will say, speaking of ESPN versus TNT. And I'm surprised that this actually hasn't been my 2-minute warning yet. I probably should go ahead and talk about that. But what is annoying is that I cannot stand with any part of my soul, my being, my existence, the damn crew that they have for ESPN for like the halftime show and the pregame show. Stephen A. Smith needs to stay far away from my NBA basketball. I don't care. I don't want to hear it. This man has the audacity to get on his show and talk about how Tyrese Halliburton, he just has it. He just doesn't see it yet. He just doesn't know if he's a superstar. Shut up. Are you joking? Are you joking? Because you can't be watching the same basketball I'm watching and saying that Tyrese Halliburton is not a superstar. Like, you just
also,
cannot be.
also, like who cares? I think the thing that always bothers me, and this is not a today conversation because we actually do have a lot to talk
We
about
actually
with
have a
like
lot to cover.
college,
I know.
but like we can come back to this. I think the thing that we forget is that yes, superstar is the top level, but
Yeah.
it's still okay to be a star. Like I don't know if
Yeah.
Tyrese Halliburton is a superstar, but he's a star, and that is good enough. Like if we're like
But like
I
Stephen
always
A
kind
is
of when
trying
we
to
have
discredit
these
him
kind
completely. Like, he's trying to make it seem
right,
like he ain't
but
nobody.
the problem is with these talk shows and these have to say things, they view it as if it's superstar or trash, and there's so many levels,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like realistically, and I always every time I get like hype about these, I bring out the math. But like realistically, how many superstars are there ever in the basketball at one time? Five.
What's the question?
Like realistically, how many superstars are there in basketball at one time? Five. Like I would maybe say
In the
five.
entire sport?
In basketball at one time. 5 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 in basketball at one time. I wouldn't go more than like 5 or 6. Like I would say the top
To 8, yeah.
5, 8 are
Yeah.
superstars, and then you have stars, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So is he
Yeah.
a top 5 to 8 player? Maybe not. Does that matter? Like he's still a legitimate star. He's obviously a number one option, right? Like he's a number one option. He's a star. He's in the playoffs. Like the last couple of years, right? He is leading his team to the finals. When they need a bucket, he's getting it. So it doesn't matter if he's not, like if LeBron is the superstar, right? If
Hmm.
Steph is the superstar, if Kobe was a superstar, maybe he's not that, but he's still a hell of a fucking basketball player. Like it's not superstar or scrub. He can
Exactly.
just
And
be
that's
a
what I'm getting
star.
at
Like
is this is the person who is sitting here talking about him in this way, who they now have analyzing the game for halftime and pregame. He's biased in a way that makes me just not want to hear anything that he ever has to say. Like, and I get it, he has his own show, he can say whatever he wants to say, whatever, blah blah. But it's kind of like how I feel about Pat McAfee on College Game Day. Like, I don't want to hear what you're talking about. Like, you're not talking about real sports analysis. You're going off of your freaking feelings and whoever didn't follow you on Instagram that day. Like, I don't care. It's kind of the same thing with Perk. Like, who decided at ESPN? You know who I really want to hear from? Kendrick
Kendrick
Perk.
Perkins. And so even for me, right, I sort of disagree.
He
You're
did such
muted.
a job for the Olympics. You could have for the finals and have him just for the finals. Like, get some people who actually have real basketball analysis and knowledge. Like, these people, like, they're just randoms. And it's ESPN is the problem. And I love Inside the NBA. I love the TNT version of it. And they are moving it to ESPN. And I have the strongest feeling that ESPN is going to mess my show up. Like, they're going to mess my show up. And
Yeah,
it's really sad because it really should be the TNT guys doing the finals. It really should be.
yeah. Well, that's TNT's fault. So
It is.
blame
It
them.
is. TNT didn't want to pay that money, and I get it. I don't know where TNT is going. I do. I knew. I know for some reason they are trying to get away from the basketball thing. I don't know why.
They're
I do
they're doing some
understand it.
stuff in college football.
Yeah,
They
I
they bought
respect.
some.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say they bought some college football playoff games from ESPN. So some of those will be on TNT and HBO Max. They bought some like as a part of like the trade for ESPN to get inside the NBA. They gave up some like Mountain West football or something like. So essentially, they're trying to get into college football, and they have some other sports. I think
Which makes
TNT,
sense. Like, it makes sense. It's just so sad because
but
inside
it's
the
all
NBA is an
yeah.
institution.
Ultimately it's all hubris, and that's the thing. Like it's sad,
Yeah.
but it's also their fault because they
Yeah.
didn't think the NBA would ever go away from them, and so they thought that they could do and ask for whatever. And the
Yeah.
NBA was like,
No.
"We still counting chicken over here. Like it's not about history. They gonna watch whatever they gonna watch. Like." And these other sports came in with more money and more whatever and more amenable terms, and they lost it because like and it's funny because the dude literally put out a statement basically saying like we don't need the NBA or something like that, and then like a year later instantly regretted it. He said we don't need the NBA and said bet. And I also think it's sort of just like a misreading the market because 10 years ago when you signed that deal, yeah, it was you and ESPN. But now Amazon's been in sports for
It's
five, six,
Yahoo.
7 years,
Yeah,
right?
it's everybody. Yeah.
CBS has decided to expand their sports, right? Like because for a while they were just very happy to have the SEC, right? NBC is back in sports.
NBC is
NBC
there.
hasn't
Yeah.
been in sports outside of maybe baseball in so long. Like they haven't been in college football in years outside of Notre
Yeah.
Dame. They went and outbid
And then they created the
ESPN
best
for
platform to watch the Olympics that I've ever seen in my life.
yeah, like these
Like,
like these
what?
like these companies who were making in so because sports are very expensive and it takes a lot to do. So these legacy media companies who are making so much money on their TV shows and on their regular stuff, they didn't feel like they needed sports outside of what they had. And then streaming and all that stuff happened, and they started losing money. And NBC, which still has a shit ton of money, and CBS, which still has a shit ton of money, and Amazon, which has a shit ton of money, was like, you know what would be cool? Sports.
Sports.
And so, yeah, 10, 15 years ago when you signed that last deal, it was just you at ESPN because nobody else was really in sports like that. Like, nobody was doing that. You didn't pay attention to the market, and now basketball is going to be on fucking Amazon. Like,
We ain't gonna be and that's the thing. It's like it is hubris. I do understand that. It's just one of those things where it's like ESPN to me is quickly becoming the corniest sports news platform on the planet.
yeah,
Like, I believe they had a notification yesterday that said Kate Martin, who is a WNBA player, she plays for the Golden State Valkyries. She played on the same team as Caitlin Clark in Iowa. None of us are. that's not lost upon any of us. But she is also her own person. And she had a great game yesterday. And they said, like, the headline was Kate Martin makes a three from the same place as Caitlin Clark, her old teammate. Like, why is that a headline?
That's so weird.
Y'all are so lame. Y'all are so weird. Y'all are so uncreative. Like, I'm still mad at
Yeah.
them for when Iowa lost the championship to Golden State, to the Gamecocks, and the freaking, like, the little, what is it? The little under, what is that called?
Oh, the ticker.
The ticker said that Iowa had won the championship. Like, that's y'all. Anyways, and so I just feel like they're about to ruin my show, and I'm very sad about it. I'm just glad that I got to have the years of inside the NBA that I know, which is about the last 10 or 15 years I've been watching it. But it's just, and even Ernie, like, he had a very, like, heartfelt kind of, like, final speech after the Eastern Conference Finals were over of, like, this is the last time that we're signing out as TNT. Very, very emotional. Anyways, the point is we have another game tonight, and I couldn't tell you who's winning it.
And I can't tell you if I'm watching it. Moving on to our Power Sweep segment. College football is finally making decisions. Are the decisions good or bad? I don't know. No one will know. But they are here. Something that has needed to be decided for a very long time has been decided, and we are here to talk about it. If you do not know what we're talking about, it is the House versus NCAA settlement. I will give a very brief, quick rundown of basically former athletes was like, hey, y'all giving money up.
Give me
We
some.
couldn't get no money. I don't like that. Sue. There's a whole bunch of lawsuits. House versus NCAA is a combination of 3 lawsuits of various types about money and scholarships and things like that. And essentially, the goal was, if we put these together, we settle them together, we'll make some landmark changes to the sport, and then we will be in a much better place. And then hopefully the next goal is that this gets codified, because if you remember, the thing that they're really looking for is they are looking for the antitrust agreement that the professional sports have, right? I'm not going to pretend that I know everything about law and antitrust and things like that, but essentially in the United States, you are not allowed to have a monopoly, right? The NFL is a monopoly.
Well, you are, but it depends on who you are. Never mind. Let me stop. Go ahead.
The NBA is a monopoly. Major League Baseball is a monopoly. And because there's not really competition, they can make rules that in other cases in non-sports would be illegal. They set how much money you can make. They set if you can do this, that, or the third. So the way to get around that is, like, we're sports. We're different. There's only one of us. Like, we need to be able to have the range to run our sport. College has never had that because it's not necessarily viewed as a business of a sense like Major League Sports are, because it wasn't professional. And for hundreds of years, there wasn't even that sort of money coming into it.
Yeah.
So now, basically, in some of the very few cases where the NCAA should be able to make a rule, they're not even able to make a rule anymore because of lawsuits and things like that. And so they're hoping that this settlement and the things that comes in it, it changes some things in the sports, it then gets codified, and then the NCAA and this new thing we're going to introduce are able to make rules for the sport that are not immediately going to go and get lawsuits.
Into litigation.
Into litigation is the better.
Yeah.
So what did House versus NCAA do, bare bones, because there's a million things and we are not lawyers? The first thing that it did is it authorized $2.8 billion in back pay to athletes from 2016 to 2024. Why those years? Because what else were you going to do? If you went back longer than that, it would have been
you don't have to pay everybody who's ever played
dollars.
in college. No, we don't have to.
They had to put a time to it. And 2016 to 2024 is largely when this started changing, and also when it most butted up to NIL. Where if you started in 2016, you could have finished in 2021, and then they gave NIL, right? If you started in 2020, you may have got NIL in 2024, but you couldn't your first 3 years. That's unfair. So from those that time period, there's back pay of $2.8 billion to these athletes in all the sports over a 10-year period. The way it breaks down is roughly 75% of it's going to football, roughly 10 to 15% is going to men's basketball, 5 to 10% is going to women's basketball, and then all the other sports are splitting the rest.
To
This
the
is
Olympic
based on
sports.
market
Yeah.
share, TV,
Yeah.
all that sort of stuff. The second thing that it's doing is it is opening up revenue sharing. Revenue sharing meaning that schools can finally pay their own athletes. You don't have to do NIL. You don't have to do the bag man. You don't they can get money directly. If you play at Ohio State, you can get money from Ohio State. If you play at Florida, you can get money from Florida.
Yes, because a lot of people were asking kind of like, what is the difference between what's already been happening and what this house settlement affects? That is the key piece. Athletes were always able to sign with third parties or collectives. Like a lot of it, schools were, especially LSU was one of the first schools to do it, where they created a collective. They had money that went into the collective, and then the collective paid the athletes because it was not something that the schools were able to do directly. So this is one of the biggest differences, is that now not only can athletes obviously get money from third parties and brands and things like that, but now they can actually get a check from the school.
Yes, and it is actually in many cases going to limit the money from the third parties and brands, which we are going to get to. Actually, that's not true. From the third parties, not from the brands. That is separate. In 2025, schools can pay up to $20.5 million to their athletes. Many schools are going to follow the model of the back pay, which is 75% to football, 10 to 15% to men's basketball, 5 to 10% to women's basketball, and then spread out the rest. Others are going to do it however they see fit. But it's up to $20.5 million, and they're saying, based on the escalators and the TV contracts that are already signed and various things like that, it could be up to $33 million in 2035. The next thing that it does is it sets roster limits. So one of the changes is that because schools can now pay athletes, they want essentially most, if not all, athletes to be on some sort of scholarship, right? Like to be able to get some sort of payment, and to sort of, it's really just to kind of make it more fair. And so they're changing roster limits, and their schools can add scholarships. You do not have to do your roster up to the limit, but it's just sort of the number. And so this is one of the big ones. For example, football changes dramatically, where football previously, up until right now, up until July 1st, you could have up to, I believe, 120 players on your team, but only 85 of them could be on scholarship. Now, you can only have 105, but all 105 can be on scholarship.
Will be on scholarship, yeah.
Men's basketball, for example, you could only have 13 scholarships. Now you can do 15. You're going to say that doesn't matter? It actually does matter, because what happens in basketball is some of you would have 15, 16, 17 people on your roster, which means your top 5, your top 10 would get a full ride, and then the other 5 or so would split scholarships. Now you can have 15 players, 15 full scholarships. One of the biggest ones is baseball. I don't even know how they got away with this, but baseball, you could only have 11.7 scholarships. So almost no one playing baseball was on a full ride scholarship. Now baseball can have up to 34 scholarships, which is still maybe not their whole roster. I think most baseball teams have more than 34, but 11.7 to 34, like, come on.
Is a huge jump. Yeah. Like, I don't even know how the hell. But also, baseball is one of those sports that they're not revenue generating. So,
right. So it's kind of,
it's kind of like that catch 2022 is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, go ahead.
So, so that is kind of, that is
now, with the roster
thing.
limits, there is a concern of how this affects like the Olympic sports, right? Like your swimming, your diving, your what is it? Gymnastics, those sorts of sports. Because what?
Not the roster limits. It's that you're right, but it's the revenue sharing.
Yeah, like I'm saying, like, with the roster limits, well, because I was reading that there could potentially be like, because the scholarship costs are so much higher for those, like, because the scholarship costs are a little different for those types of sports, like it could cause an issue with like the pipeline to Olympics, basically, like to Team USA. Like it could cause a bit of an issue with the roster limits and like having to give full scholarships to everyone, with the Olympic sports, which is a little different than like the non-Olympic sports. I was just reading about it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I haven't seen that, but you can read. You got critical thinking skills, so if you read it, it
I
happened.
do be reading. I do
Uh,
be doing that.
the
That's
only thing that I had seen about the Olympic sports, and this is why this is a 2-person show because you wouldn't get everything if it was only me and vice versa. Only thing that I had heard about the Olympic sports is that schools may get rid of some of the sports to
yeah.
fund the revenue sharing.
Which
So
then would
like,
cause an issue with the pipeline, right? Because if you're saying, okay, we really need to focus on football, we're going to get rid of swimming and diving, and then a bunch of schools make that decision.
yeah.
Well,
So
now,
yeah, but that's what I was saying. That's why I was saying like you're not wrong. It just has nothing to do with the roster limits. It's just the revenue sharing because they're
see the
going to.
context. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know. Either way,
It was the context of like the scholarships with that was also causing the issue because it's basically like we would rather take these scholarships and put them towards the revenue generating sports rather than the non-revenue generating sports because now we have to pay for all these students to be here. So it's like,
okay,
you know what I'm
okay.
saying?
Yeah. I
So,
get it. I get it. That okay. So no, that makes sense. I understand what you're saying.
yeah.
So yeah, and so there are some schools that are probably going to get rid of things, and then there are other schools like my Ohio State Buckeyes that have already said they're going to keep all 36 sports, and they're adding 91 scholarships
Period.
across all the sports.
But y'all also can
So
afford it, so don't piss me
yes,
off.
right. There of course there are some that cannot. But we can get to that in that not every school has to opt into the settlement. So of course all the P4 schools are going to opt in, right? The Big Ten, the ACC, the SEC, and the Big 12. The schools in the Pac-12 who are going to try to get back to this level are probably going to opt in. But like your Kent State, right? Your Episcopal, whatever you say, school, your insert directional school, they don't have to do that.
The
Your
Episcopal
division,
School of Church of God in Christ,
yeah,
North
like
Louisiana.
like your Lutheran St. John school, like they don't have to do that, right? If you opt in, of course you have to abide by these rules, but you do not have to opt in. So this is not like a mandate for every
Yeah,
school
widespread.
everywhere. This would drive them out of business.
Yeah.
And what may happen is there are going to be some schools that maybe drop down a level, and everyone's going to say doom and gloom. But like, I think that should happen. Like, I've been an advocate of a while that there needs to be another level in sports. Like, there should not be 130 D1 teams. I'm sorry, you can't have 130 schools that are even equal. Even in the Power Four, where it's like 60 something schools, they're still not equal. Top to bottom, the Big Ten's not equal. Top to bottom, the SEC is not equal. So what are you
Yeah.
doing with the other ones? I've always been an advocate that they need to add another level, and then they need to allow those schools to drop down and shift everyone down. And they do that in high school all the time with divisions. Like they
Oh
do that
yeah, we
in
be
the state
moving
of
up and down. One time
Ohio.
you're 5A, next year you're 6A, the next year you're
Yeah.
4A. Like,
So
yeah,
like
it's based on
there
number of
shouldn't be a
students though.
hundred. Yeah, there shouldn't be 130 teams in Division One. Like they're not all the same. So ultimately, like this does not mean that everything's going to be perfect and whatever. But I think that there is going to sort of be a divide, right? Where even if it's not official, it's going to be like the schools that opted into the settlement, and then the schools that didn't, and then Division FCS and all the other sort of stuff.
And the other thing too, before we move on to the next bit, is as you can imagine, this is going to have some sort of Title IX implications. They're not entirely sure yet, but there is going to have to be a conversation about
Don't say
equal
that.
pay for female athletes.
Don't say that.
What?
Who's president?
Right. So, but he said that that wasn't going to happen, and then another judge came in and said, "Haha, he doesn't get to do that." So, even though the Donald Trumps of the world who believe that women are nothing but holes to stick themselves into, there's also judges who protect these sorts of things. And there were judges that said, like, he could say all day that they're not about to do that, but like he quite literally does not have that type of power. So if it comes down to an equal pay conversation, they have to have it. Like, it's not, they're just trying. I think the biggest thing is like, is it going to be a percentage of the NIL percentage that they have that makes it equal? Like, they have to figure out the logistics of that, but there are going to be Title IX implications with the revenue sharing. Um,
I'll believe it when I see it.
I will also believe it
There
when I see
are
it as well.
always Title IX implications with scholarships and roster limits. I would not be surprised if they find a way to skirt that in the revenue sharing.
Yeah, but
Um,
also it's a litigation point as well. So it could also become a point where it's like oh, y'all doing this revenue sharing shit and y'all think y'all finna not give us equal pay. Here's another lawsuit, which it kind of goes back to the whole antitrust thing.
Yeah,
But yeah.
and that one's tough because how do you determine equal pay?
How do you? I
Like
know that,
it's
but it's also like,
are you going to pay a swimmer the same much as a women's basketball player, the same as a softball player, the same as a golf? Like, you know what I mean? Like, because that, like, not only just with Title IX, of course, but you then get into should your golfer make as much as the swimmer, who should make as much as the tennis player, who should make as much as the men's basketball player, who should make as much as the wrestler who has won 3 national championships, who should make as much as football. So, like,
which
that's
is why
it.
I think that's the conversation, right? Is what, how do we determine that? What makes it quote unquote equal? I think it's going to probably come down to some sort of math and ratios and things like that. Because no, of course, if football is bringing in $50 million a year and then women's golf is bringing in $400,000, obviously those athletes are not going to be paid equally. But I think it's a matter of like an equal share of what's being shared, if you know what I mean, is kind of more of what the conversation is like, or an equitable share, if that makes sense. Because it's never going to be equal. It can't be. There's certain sports that obviously make more money or have more whatever than others, but it can't just be, oh, we're just only going to give our revenue share to all the insert male sports here, and oh well, sorry, women's sports. Like, you also can't do that.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, it is going to be interesting. They have sort of skirted the Title IX up to this point.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who've been like, "So what about Title IX?" And they'd be like, "Title who? Title what?
Who is that? We
We're
don't
just
know
trying to
her.
figure this out." So, of course, and that's the thing with like, this is not perfect. This is not final. There's going to be things, and especially if they don't get the antitrust, there's going to be a lot that comes into it. But and also like you just can't answer it until you see it, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you probably need 3, 4, 5 years of data to say these schools are or are not paying women, or they're not
Equitably.
paying swimming,
Yeah.
doing this, they're messing around with the roster numbers and stuff like that. But let's be honest, I'm not stupid and neither are you. They're gonna find a way to
And that's the
give.
thing that makes me sad. Like, why can't we just figure it out in a way where it's not like, I don't know. I don't want to get too deep into that, but it's just irritating because I feel like women always get the short end of the stick on stuff, and it's just like Title IX exists because women were not getting the proper opportunities that they were supposed to get. You know what I mean? So now it's to sit there and be like, oh, we're gonna try to find a way around it. It's just like, oh my god, like y'all are so annoying.
Yeah, and I think where the interesting thing is going to come from, right, is it's going to come from, let's say, just random example, South Carolina, where the best sport on campus is women's basketball. How are they going to pay that versus football, right? Another example would be like it's not going to happen at Ohio State most likely because right, like it's going to be a case where, right, like your women's basketball team. Actually, what could potentially happen at Ohio State though is the women's basketball team is better than the men's basketball team.
Hmm.
What's going on there? And
Y'all need to get a higher share.
I
Yeah.
would be very interested to see what happens at Ohio State in particular, because Ohio State is one of the few schools that I know that currently men's and women's basketball is being treated like equal. They're
Hmm.
in the same building. They have the same exact locker rooms. They get the same exact things. Like, unless it's like LeBron is gifting this, but LeBron also gifts things to the women's athletes as well. So it's like, but
Hmm.
like the locker room, like all of that is the same. Like when they built the building, they built it for both of them. The locker room's like 100% mirror. So like that's one of the few. So like it'd be interesting if Ohio State's just like both of y'all get 7.5 or whatever. Like, but like it is going to be interesting out of school, right? Where like Notre Dame, right? Are you going to pay
Yeah.
your men? Does Notre Dame even have a men's basketball team? I'm sure they do, but the point
I
is,
probably, yeah.
right? Are you going to pay your men's basketball team at Notre Dame better than the women's, right?
That's all I'm getting at is don't
Like
piss me off and make it seem like, oh, it's just automatic notion that the women should just get equal to what the men get. The only place right now that I could think of off the top of my head, two places where that would make sense is UConn and NC State in the context of basketball. Those are the only two places where it makes sense where you would potentially pay the women and the men's the same because they're both equally successful. But to your point, if we're talking about freaking UNT basketball, like you obviously the men are going to make more because women aren't as good. Or even SMU. SMU women's basketball has not even gone to the postseason since like 2014. They should not arguably get the same share as the men's basketball. But also, like, we're not going to sit here and act like if the women's team is better that they shouldn't get more. They should get
Yeah,
more.
and I
Period. They
think
should get
that's
more.
that's gonna be the
Soccer,
thing.
whatever, all the other sports. The only sport that doesn't have that doesn't have anything comparable at right as of right now is football. But
Yeah, and football messes up Title IX all the time.
yeah,
Both just also the amount of money and the roster sizes and all
yeah.
these other sort of things. So, and I know this is easier said than done, but if I was in control, I would, if there is a counterpart, I would just give them the same and then just go on like that. Because the thing that is important in this is that you can still do NIL deals. You can still get deals from brands.
Yeah.
So for me in the Title IX implication, it's like, okay, if the men's basketball team is better, then when you go out to brands and when you go out to donors and when you go out to things that's not revenue sharing, you give them more money based on what they've done.
Oh,
But
I see
out
that.
of
That makes sense
revenue
too.
share, men's basketball gets 5%, women's basketball gets 5%. Baseball gets 2%. Softball gets 2%. Men's soccer gets 1%. Women's soccer gets 1%. And then when the
I see that
additional
too.
money that comes on top, yes, if the women's basketball team is better, they're going to be the ones that's going out there and that's being promoted because, like, let's be honest, Don Staley don't need to promote nothing no more. South Carolina
Yeah.
don't get it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, if you know, so that's what like right like USC don't need to do shit for Juju. Juju got it right. So like give her like Juju gonna get the 5% that she gonna get. The men's basketball team gonna get that. But at the end of the day, Juju's gonna be the highest paid athlete probably at that school because of what she can garner in on top of that. And I know they're not gonna do that because that makes no sense. And because the problem
I
with
also
doing
feel like
who's better
though,
than the other though is it flips. Because if in 5 years, what if SMU basketball is better than the men's? Do you then do you change it each year? Do you do the I For me, I would do the really hard
mm,
math to figure out the percentages and then I would just stick to it and say this is what we pay and then when it comes to NIL, when it comes to these things, that's where you'll make your additional money. That's where you'll do the sort of things because this
mm,
doesn't restrict that. Because you do run into that problem with knock on wood, this isn't gonna happen. But like South Carolina women's basketball is amazing. What
hmm.
happens if in 10 years football there has won 3 national championships, right? Like what happens if in 2 years Texas men's basketball is back to back championships and Hannah, not Hannah, what's the girl's name?
Madison Booker.
Madison Booker left. She's in the league, and now they've crumbled, right? So,
Yeah.
like, I wouldn't want to put myself in a position where I have to constantly reevaluate. I would say, I think today and throughout the years, because you knew it was coming, I would say these are our percentage. Now, if we're giving 20 million or we're giving 33 million, this is the percentage across the board because the athletes in the sports can bring in other money and we can help facilitate that as they've sort of earned it, which is not going to
Yeah.
happen because
What
that's
you're
too
saying makes
logical.
sense, but what pisses me off is that they're gonna do the opposite of that. They're gonna
Yes.
be able to say, "Oh, we're paying men's basketball more because men's basketball is better," but then when it comes to the schools that where women's basketball is better, they're gonna come up with every reason in the world why they're not gonna do the same thing there. And that's what pisses me off is that now it's got to be, well, everybody should be equal. Oh yeah, everybody should be equal now that the men are stinking it up and the women are actually doing
Mm-hmm.
well. Now everybody gets to be equal. Shut up.
Yep.
Anyways, go ahead. Not
So
not towards you, but I'm just like
I know, I know, I
that's
know.
the that's the logic that gets on my damn nerves. Is like it can't be an automatic like, well, duh, South Carolina women's basketball is going to get more than the men's. I couldn't tell you one person who plays on that men's basketball team. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen men in a South Carolina Gamecocks jersey for basketball. Like I do not know. So
But
I'm just
yeah,
like,
so but and that's for me, I would just basically I wouldn't want to justify it.
yeah,
So I would justify it on the numbers that I have. How much money you're bringing in, how much money we're spending, roster size, like those sort of things, right? Because
yeah,
especially because when you look at the comparing sports, they're pretty similar, right? Your men's and women's basketball is probably gonna have 15 each, right? Your men's and women's swimming is probably gonna have X number each. Your men's and women's track probably gonna have X number each. Like I would sort of do it off of that because then you can say it doesn't matter if you're good or you're bad, if you're ugly, if you're cute. Like this is
not
the
good, bad,
money.
ugly, or cute.
This is it. And I think that's the only way it makes sense because you can't get in. and this is not even just for the players, this is also for coaches and things like that. You can't get to a point where coaches can lobby for what they want. Because, for example, another place where this is going to be an issue, and it literally ran the basketball coach out, is the University of Kentucky. For years, the University of Kentucky was much better at basketball than football. And then, am I talking about the right school? Yeah, University of
Kentucky?
Kentucky. Yeah, because I believe Kentucky's coach is now at Cal.
I don't
Is
know.
now is now
I
at
don't know.
Arkansas. Okay, it doesn't matter. I'm right. It's University of Kentucky. University of Kentucky, for a while, they were much better at basketball. They were winning all these national championships. Football was ass. And then football got a little bit better. And the basketball coach is like, hold on, hold on, hold on. You know how many national championships I have to my name? And they don't got nothing? And you building them this and you building them that and you doing this and you doing that
Mm-hmm.
for football, but I got all the chips. And so he left Coach Cal and now he's at Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
But that's an example of you can't put it in a what have you done for me now, what have you done for me lately, where coaches can go to war with each other to say, well, yeah, I get it that 10 years ago they were good, but last year they went 2-10 and I won 80% of my games. So now this year you have to flip it, and then next year you got to flip it, and then next year, and all the coaches are
No,
doing
yeah,
it.
you're
Like, you
making
just
sense.
can't do
You're making
that. And
sense.
that's
I
what's
just
going to
hate it
happen
when it
because
comes to
these
the men versus the
administrators are
women.
stupid.
Yeah.
Yes. So,
It makes sense. It makes sense. It makes sense. But
and
yes,
and that's also how I would solve the men's versus women's thing, because I would just give it the same. Men's and women's basketball is the same. Men's and women's track is the same. Because you're not getting this because you're a man or a woman. You're getting it because of the sport. Track gets
yeah,
less than basketball. Basketball gets less than football. The swimming gets more than wrestling. Wrestling gets more than table tennis. Whatever it is, and
not
it's just
table
leave it as
tennis.
that. Like, I don't know.
Well, the thing about it is, I think it's just because historically speaking, we know that that's just not the case. Like
Oh yeah, I
the
just like
women can't even get paid. They just started paying them to be in the postseason for basketball last year.
yes.
These men have been getting paid for I don't even know how long. Like paying the
To be
schools, not
yeah.
even not even the athletes directly, paying the damn schools. So that's why I'm just kind of like it's the same thing with the reason why. What's that girl name who didn't get drafted? Tall white girl who be beating up people. What is her name? I don't know why I
I
can't
don't.
think of her
I,
name. But
we don't need to say her name
TCU,
on the show.
whatever, that girl, the reason why she's so famous is because she's the one who posted the difference between the men's weight room and the women's weight room at the NCAA. Like the NCAA themselves don't even treat these
Mm-mm.
athletes like they're the same. So that's what pisses me off is that I feel like so much more BS is going to go on when it comes to the men's versus the women's because they don't even know how to provide similar facilities. They don't even know how to provide similar accommodations. They don't even know how to provide insert XYZ thing here. A male team could be trash, but he's going to have his own locker room. He's going to get all the gear. He's going to have all the facilities that he needs access to, whatever, and the team is trash.
Yep.
So that's all I'm saying is I I hear you because I wouldn't want to do all of that type of math and stuff like that every year either. Keep it equal, keep it to a good percentage, but it's also like,
We both know it's not going to happen.
child,
And that's why I
anyways.
said that's what I would do, not what's
Yeah,
gonna happen.
yeah.
Because we are not naive. We was not born yesterday, and
Like
my name is not Boo Boo the Fool. Like,
I was born at night, but I was not born last night. Thank you
say
so
was
much. With that being said, now with all of these things with NIL and oh my gosh, this percentage and that percentage and this school and that school and revenue share and this blah 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 blah. You know what they need? Governance. You know who's not about to do it? The NCAA. So therefore, there is now going to be a college sports commission that is going to be assembled, not to be confused with the Donald Trump nonsense that we talked about a couple weeks ago. Not that. This is from the conferences, I believe, that they are putting this together, if I'm not mistaken.
yes, the
So the
P4.
conferences are putting together a college sports commission that is supposed to be kind of like the enforcers, if you will, of all of these new rules coming down from the settlement plus everything else. So I just introduced you. You tell me about all the little. You know more about the details than I do.
Yes. So the College Sports Commission is going to do two things. First and foremost, it is a governing body that is set by the P4. It is going to be governed by a board of the Power Four. They're doing this together. And the first thing that I want to say about this, because everyone's talking about it, and so we just need to put it out there, they are going to be able to govern because the member schools have to opt in.
Sign a contract. Yes.
Because like that's the problem with the NCAA. The NCAA has been there and people don't like it. When
Yeah.
the SEC and when the Big Ten and when these schools are saying that this is a good thing, And I know that they're opting in because literally as soon as it was announced, the Big Ten conference social media posted about it. The Big Ten commissioner spoke about it, and vice versa. These others, they are doing this together, which also means they are setting the rules together, right? Like there's already some like rumors about what the penalties can be. I imagine that
Mhm.
those penalties exist because they got in a room and they said, "What would we agree to?" And maybe Rutgers didn't get as much say, maybe Cal didn't get as much say, but they went in there and they said, "This is what we need. This is why. This is how we're going to do it." And for it to work, each school is going to have to sign a contract to say, "We are doing
You're
revenue
gonna
sharing.
abide by it.
We are therefore going to abide by the College Sports Commission." Now, is it going to work? I don't know.
Hell to the no, because I was reading that it was saying that in some ways there could be potential where in order to be compliant with the College Sport Commission, they would have to go against the law of whatever state they're in. So I'm kind of
Yes.
like, now, how the hell does that work? Because we can't.
But so the thing with that is this is not going against the laws of the state as far as what's legal. This is certain states care about sports more than others, so certain states created rules
Yeah, yeah.
that gave unfair advantages, right? Like there are certain states where high schoolers can get NIL from
Texas is one of them.
colleges, right?
Yes.
Colleges don't like that. So basically what they're saying is like you're not breaking a law. It's just saying I understand that Texas can you can do it in high school, and I understand that in Louisiana you can do this, and I understand that in Mississippi you can do this, and Ohio you can do this. We're all playing by the same rules. And these rules say NIL has to be under $600 or it has to be reported. Their money's coming from revenue sharing. It's these sort of things.
Yeah.
So the
Governance.
thing
Because the
is,
NCAA is not going to sit down and do all that.
right.
They're just
And
not.
so, but that's why it's optional, right?
Yeah.
Like, is it optional for an SEC school? Probably not, because then they're
Yeah.
going to kick you out the SEC. But for anyone else who wants to do it,
Like
it's
a Notre
optional.
Dame. Yeah.
Yeah, like Notre Dame, like you don't have to do it.
Yeah.
But if you sign up, these are the rules that you have to abide by. Like they're coming up with and so that's what the College Sports Commission is. Is going to be sort of two things. The first thing is it's going to be revenue sharing enforcement. It is going to be making sure that they're following the rules, that the money is being given, that they're staying under the cap, right? That they're doing these sort of things. They're not necessarily going to be enforcing like if and hopefully when Title IX comes in, I still
Hmm.
think that's going to be an NCAA thing. I don't think
Hmm.
the College Sports Commission is going to be, did you give, oh, you gave football 60%, you're out of it. It's going to be, as a whole, you stayed under $20.5 million.
Yes. The
This
College Sports
money went,
Commission is like if you join like a sorority or fraternity, or if you're on a board and you have bylaws, right? Like
yes,
there's no legalities to it, but there are going to be ways that things are going to be handled in a way where it's written down, it's contractual, and you're agreeing to these terms of how you're going to manage it, and you opt
it's
into it. You're not, yeah,
it's the same exact thing as the conference,
yeah.
right? Like the Big Ten's rules are different than the SEC's rules, and
SEC,
so on and
yeah,
so
for
forth. And
sure.
when you go to those, you have to abide by those rules. Like I saw, and I don't know if this is 100% true. This is just something I read because I haven't looked into it. There's rumors that the SEC put in a rule that said that you still can only do 85 scholarships in football, which was the rule
Oh,
for however many years. So even though it goes up to 105, the
they don't
SEC is
have
like
to do that.
basically SEC is basically like, hey, we're going to keep it the same. You get
Yeah,
85 scholarships. So the Big Ten was like, no,
we're gonna take
we're
105.
not
Thank
doing
you.
that. So like it's the same thing, right? The Big Ten, you sign up for those rules. If they say you can get 100, and these conferences do have different rules. Another rule that the SEC has is that if you transfer in the spring in football, you cannot go to an SEC school or you have to sit out.
Oh,
So if you transfer in December, you can go to an SEC school, you can play. If you transfer in May, most of those kids are not going to SEC schools
good
because the
luck. Go
SEC
somewhere
has a
else.
rule that says if you
Yeah,
transfer in May, you cannot play them that next year. And it's
yeah,
so that and it's so Alabama isn't stealing from Mississippi State, who's stealing
yeah,
from Vanderbilt, right?
yeah,
So it's the same thing as conferences. It's the same thing as sororities, fraternities, as any sort of optional organization. You opt in and then you follow those rules. Those rules are going to be enforced by that contract and by arbitration. One of the things that is interesting is non P4 schools can opt in and out, but they have to give a year's notice. So the first opt in is June 14th. And then after that, there's going to release a list of every school who has opted in. And then for schools who didn't opt in, every year you have a deadline in March that basically says this year I want to opt in. You do it for however long.
Mm-hmm.
If school A opts in is like we can't afford this, they can then opt out. But again, the P4, Big Ten, ACC, SEC, Big 12, this is being run by their conferences. You can't opt in because the
Yeah.
conference is in.
Yeah,
So
Big Ten signed the contract, so yeah, Houston, you gonna have to you deal with the Big Ten. No, they're in the Big 12. Whoever.
yeah, Big 12, yeah. So
I am not a conference historian. I don't know any given school who's in whatever I don't
and
know. Okay,
it's changed so much that it
and it
doesn't
keeps
matter.
changing. Like I don't damn know. I keep mixing up the Big 10 and the Big 12, which is very embarrassing. But I'm working on it.
So then, what are some of the potential penalties? Uh, One of them is going to be a multi-game suspension for coaches. There can
Oh.
be a reduction in revenue share pool, which is huge, right? You don't get 20 million this year; you get 18. Figure it out, right? There can be this one is interesting, and this is how I know the schools signed up for this.
Mm-hmm.
There can be a reduction in
In
transfers.
transfers, I saw that.
That is interesting because I don't think they can reduce scholarships. Like I think that's like an
Yeah,
NCAA thing, but they can reduce like you can't bring in a whole bunch of transfers. And then the last one is school fines.
which makes sense. Yeah.
The second part of the commission is NIL because revenue sharing and NIL are separate. As a reminder, revenue sharing is exactly as it is. NIL is money outside.
Yeah.
So as brief as possible, because I feel like if I keep talking, I'm going to end up making some things up, and I'm trying to stay into what I know. You are allowed to get money from Nike. You are allowed to get money from Jordan. You are allowed to get money from Gatorade and insert legit business here. What? Because, right, Nike is not paying an 18-year-old $2 million unless that 18-year-old is Juju. And Nike's not paying Juju $2 million to go to USC. Nike's
Yeah.
gonna pay Juju $2 million wherever the hell she
To
goes.
wear the shoes.
So
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
not restricting that. If you are a star and if you get money from Nike, from Gatorade, from Adidas, from insert whatever, that is your money because Nike and insert all these other people have valued you at that, and there is something in your contract. You have to come to appearances, you wear the shoes, you do whatever. That money is fine. What is going to be restricted and going to be looked at is insert car dealership two
Mm.
miles outside the school. They can't give DJ $100,000. Like they're gonna have to look at that. Like, why is this car dealership giving you $100,000? Is this $100,000 for you to come to this school? Like
Mm-hmm.
that. Like, do you actually have obligations? Like, are you going and selling cars? Are you going to be taking? Are you going to billboards? Are you going to the car dealership to sign autographs? Like, if you are not getting paid to do something, and they do not find it fair market value, which is the issue that I have. Because how do you determine fair market value? Like, that's
They're
the
gonna have to make
gray
it up.
area.
They're making
Um,
it up. That's the only way
and
you
and
can do it.
so one of the big things, and I think the reason why people push this is they were tired of like the Nico EMI.
Nico I.
This is so embarrassing. I like to say people's names right, and when we were talking about him, I got it right all the time because like I was hearing it, and now I'm trying to bring him up a month later, and Nico Iamaleava.
Sure.
He was given $8 million to a year to go to Tennessee, and he hadn't done anything.
Yeah.
That's going to be one where they're like, hold on, this is pay for play. Ooh, you
And we're
can't do
not
that.
doing that
Where's
per
the money
se.
coming in? Like what are we
Yeah.
talking about? Like, so that is the hope. I'm speaking to the hope. I am not saying it's going to happen because I don't have any faith that any of this goes perfectly, and nothing in life goes perfectly, but it definitely never goes perfectly when you're talking about $1 billion businesses and various
Yeah, of
schools.
course.
But the hope is you are getting paid from the school. That's where most players are getting their money from. The superstars and the stars are always going to get their Nike and their Adidas and their Gatorades and their whatever contracts, right? Your Heisman winner is going to get the Nissan Heisman commercial, right? That is your Juju's, that is your Jeremiah Smiths, that is your Caleb Downs, that is your Caleb Wilson, that is your Hannah Hidalgo's, those players who are getting these by major companies. And then where they're trying to restrict is insert car dealership, insert local grocery store, insert
They just have
local
to make
tax
sure that the deals make
office.
sense. They
Yes.
that's really what it comes down to is that
Anything over
they're
$600.
anything over $600 like what are y'all doing?
And
Who
so how this
authorized
works,
this?
yes, how this works, and this is where the big issue is going to come in, is it does have to be self-reported. But
Yeah,
everyone's like, why is the 18-year-old going to self-report it? They're not. It's going to be the
absolutely
compliance
not.
office. Like, let's be honest. Like, when it says self-reported, they really mean by the school. Like, the
Yeah.
compliance office is going to report this, not
Yeah,
the
yeah.
kid.
Well, because they're starting to even restructure like staff and stuff to have like NIL professionals working
Yes.
at the schools directly, and in some cases negotiating the deals on the athlete's behalf.
Yes.
So
So
there's
that
also
so
a
insert
change.
uncle, grandma, cousin,
Yeah,
shady friend can't say I'm your
yeah,
I'm your
yeah.
agent and get you in a 360 deal. So
Not
yeah,
360.
that is the sort of goal with that. And basically, what happens is you're going to submit it. If it's fine, it's fine. If they say, hey, we don't think that this is fair market, so let's say DJ, I'm giving you $100,000 to be the co-host of Power 2 Podcast.
Oh my
They can
god, thank you
say
so much.
that this is not fair market. We believe you should only get $50,000. Then you can say, okay, that's fine. I'm gonna rework the contract. They're gonna pay me 50. Or you can say, I think this is still wrong. Then you go a second time. If it's denied a second time, then it goes to arbitration. If
Oh
you lose
gosh.
arbitration, which is what happens in baseball and all the other kind of things, then you lost it. If you can make the case, then you win it. This is not a new concept. Arbitration exists in other sports, but largely in baseball. Baseball is a really big one, which is also why, and the last thing that I have to say on this, the leader of the College Sports Commission is someone coming from baseball. And I think part of this is two things. One, because of some of the scandals and some of the various things in baseball, it's relevant. But then
Hmm.
also, when you're talking about money and things, baseball is one of the only sports that still has arbitration. If you don't know, baseball's contracts are insane. And so
Ridiculous.
basically, you are under team control for like 6 years. But after 3 years, you can go to arbitration where I can say, hey, DJ, you've been a star for me, but like, I still think you only deserve $2 million. DJ can say, I think I deserve 10. I'm not going to sign your contract. DJ can't sign with any other podcast. But what happens is, since we can't agree, we go to someone else. And DJ says, I've been on this podcast for 2 years. I did whoop, 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 whoop. I deserve 10 mil. And the team is like, I'm broke. Because let's be honest, it's crazy. But the team goes in and says, well, we think they did this and we've determined this or that. And basically, you win or lose arbitration. They say, I side inside of the player. You have to pay 10, and the school and the team has to play 10. They say, unfortunately, player, you lost, and then you have to accept 2, and that's basically what's going to happen. They're going
Yeah.
to say yes or no. If it goes to arbitration, the arbitration is going to say this is what the number is, and everyone has to agree with it. That's how that works.
Period.
That's that.
I'm
You're going to hear a
exhausted.
whole lot of things. We may talk about things, but the one thing that I will say, and the one thing that hopefully I will stick to, unless something crazy comes out, we just won't know for 2 or 3, 4 years. Like
Oh,
you
there's no way to
can't
know how
know.
all this is going to
There's
turn
no
out.
data.
Yeah.
Like just let it play out,
Yeah.
and we'll see.
Because even with the fair market conversation, like there is no fair market until the market has
Right.
until there's breath in the market. So we'll be able to determine those types of numbers maybe in the next like 5 to 10 years because athletes would have been paid for a long amount of time where we can start to aggregate
Yeah.
data and know like okay, a shoe deal for a women's basketball player of this caliber should be within this range and all of that. They just can't know that yet, which is why some of the NIL deals are as ridiculous as they are because
There's no right.
we just don't know. Yeah,
And even before the settlement and things, there was always this sort of conversation that like in 5 years it's not going to be the same.
it's not going to be the same
Everyone is
because it can't be. But it's also not sustainable. It is not sustainable to pay your quarterback $2 million and your star wide receiver $8 million and your star whoever. What that's not sustainable. So there's going to be. I mean, even with a lot of universities with the collectives, that's why they were coming up with the collectives and saying, okay, we're going to pay athletes $20,000 each. So that way they could play and blah blah blah. Obviously, before we knew the schools could pay the athletes directly, so it's gonna go up and then it's gonna come right back down. But stay tuned because this is huge. I also love that for the athletes who did not get the chance to obviously get paid now at least getting something out of this because I think that's how all of this came up in the first place, right? So I live for the fact that we are going to say like, hey, athletes who could have had a chance at this, we're still going to make sure you are good.
Yep. And that's all that we have because we are not lawyers, nor
It's
do we have the
I
ultimate
took
faith.
2 sports law classes. That is all I got for y'all, okay? That is all I but so the biggest thing I think that we are looking forward to as far as the fallout is, of course, the NCAA wanting to have something codified as far as them being, with antitrust. So that way they're not getting constantly sued over and over again about this stuff. And also, why did it just leave my brain? I was gonna say something else. It just completely left me. Oh my gosh. What the heck? Oh my gosh, what the heck? Why did I just forget what I was about to say?
Ah, that's tough.
What the heck? It's like important too. Oh my gosh. Whatever. There's other things. I forgot. I
Yeah.
forgot. Oh,
Well,
the one of the biggest things is obviously also with athletes being paid directly by the universities. There's a whole thing about whether or not athletes are considered employees of the university and how that's going to work out. Because there's just still a lot of questions now that this has been determined. Like just because the house settlement has happened does not mean like everything's going to be fine. Like there's
yes.
still so many questions. So
Some of the
we will see.
lawsuits that are still out there
Yeah.
that could not be combined with this are around employment. And again, that is why they're looking for this to be codified and they're looking for the antitrust because what they're saying is we are better than we were 60 years ago. We are paying players. They can get brand deals. They are doing these things. We've acquiesced to a lot. Can they not be employees?
Can
And
they
I
not?
am
Yeah.
on the line that they don't need to be employees.
I
Like
don't think
for
they should be
me,
employees either. I don't think
if
they should be employees
this
either.
works, that's fine because my
That's
biggest problem is you're making millions and billions of dollars off the backs of 18 and 19 year olds and
and
not
you're not
giving
giving
them
them
money.
anything. Yeah.
These 18, 19 year olds can go to the Olympics and they couldn't cast a check until they were done.
Yeah,
Like
that's
they
insane.
couldn't do the brand. Like so, it's that kind of. I don't think so. We'll see. But like, yes, the overall point. This is something. This is a step. We won't know how good or bad it is for 3, 4, 5 years. But also, this does not mean the end of all things. There are still things that have to come over this. This is just a very large step.
A very big step. Yes. Um Moving on to the 2-minute warning. Mine is quick. Uh the Golden State Valkyries smacked up the Las Vegas
Smack
Aces
them up.
yesterday. It was it was shocking.
I got
Like
the notification on my phone and thought it was fake.
it was shocking. I watched the end of the game. They were just rolling, man. Kayla Thornton was having the game of her life. Veronica Burton was having the game of her life. Kate Martin was having a good time. Like they were just rocking. And that crowd is crazy. I mean, it was a sellout. It was like 18,000 people there. It's giving very much six-man energy. Like that crowd was juiced up. And they were just playing well. The thing about it is the Golden State Valkyries have a really, really great system. I feel like a lot of people were just like, oh, they just put a whole bunch of nobodies on the team together. Da 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 da. But the problem is when you get a whole bunch of role players, that's not always a bad thing because now none of these people are coming in here expecting to be all dominant. They know how to share, they know how to move, they know how to cut, they know how to run around one another because they've been role players at every other team that they've been on. But also, what's really cool is that now people who had the potential to be stars at teams that they were on, but there was always somebody else, can be stars now. Hence, Kayla Thornton, Monique Billings, Veronica Burton, those people who they always kind of were living in the shadows of whatever team that they were on. Like Kayla Thornton is a champion because she was in New York, but did she get many touches during that championship run? Not necessarily. But now she just got her first 20-point double double. So it's like, it's not like these women weren't capable. They were just on teams that had more stars. Also, Natalie Nasake, I think that's her name, the
Osaka.
coach.
Yeah.
Nasake is her last name. She is a
Yeah.
child of the one of the best coaches in the WNBA. Not like actual child. She's in the coaching tree with Becky Hammon. So I think there's that. Also, the best person to scout a team is a person who used to work for said team.
Yes.
So obviously, Golden State is always going to have Las Vegas's number because Natalie was there for 4 years. So there's that. But also with Vegas, they're just not meshing. Like Jewel Lloyd still hasn't been able to do what she needs to do as far as what we expect her to do from a scoring standpoint. Jackie Young is being very, very inconsistent. Chelsea Gray is doing her best, but also at the end of the day, but Asia Wilson leads the team in all categories in steals, blocks, points, and assists. How are you leading the whole team in all four? That is not normal. Like
No. And
That's not normal.
as much as that speaks to the greatness of Asia Wilson, it also speaks to the flaws in the
In the
team.
team. Yeah. And the bench is just non-existent. Like, it is just non-existent. I know that Crystal Bradford, she's pretty good, and obviously they have Aaliyah Nye, who's a rookie. But other than that, I mean, like, KB is basically silent. Like, I couldn't name anybody else on the team. I mean, Dana Evans is okay. Like, it's just one of those things where it's like we also don't have a lot of depth. So it's like, what do, and I say we because I root for whatever team Asia Wilson is on, and she's made it very clear she's not leaving Vegas. So it's just like, I don't know. I just feel like we're fumbling the bag a little bit, and I don't really know. I'm not going to do the overreaction of like Vegas is going to have a bad season now, but it's also like this was the biggest franchise. This was the biggest win in expansion team history. They beat them by 27. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mine is actually going to be very quick. Clips is releasing a new album,
Oh, I
and
don't know who that is.
okay. So if you do not know who Clips is, do you? Okay, first of all, do you know who? Oh my gosh, you really don't know who? Actually, I don't know why I was going to ask that. That didn't surprise me that you don't know
I
who
don't know who
Clips
any of these people are. If I'm being honest, I don't know who any of these people are. Go ahead.
is.
I don't know who any of these people are.
Do you know who Pusha T is? Right.
I know who Pusha T is, yes.
Okay. So Pusha T, when he first started rapping, he used to rap with his brother.
I'm assuming his
Together,
brother is
they're
Clips.
Clips. No, no, no.
Okay.
Together,
Oh,
they're Clips. His brother is Malice. You
okay.
have absolutely heard them, of course. You have, especially if you listen to Pharrell, because they're all from Virginia and they did a lot of things together. Have you heard "Grinding" like that one? That was a very bad. It doesn't matter.
Go
You've heard
ahead and
some
just tell us
songs.
what's going on.
I just wasn't. I just wasn't expecting you to. It doesn't matter. I know for a fact that you have heard clip songs.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. The point is none. The point
They're
is
coming up with
this.
a new album.
The point is this. Clips came out, they were really good, and then Malice decided to be no malice and quit rapping and preach. So then
Oh.
Pusha T rapped on his own for X number of years. They have not released a joint album in 20 years. And so this is
Oh.
huge because Clips was one of the better rap duos. They were like, if they had rapped forever, like they're up there with the Outcast and then like they were very
Oh.
good. And then Malice found God and decided to be no Malice. And so I mean, they're brothers, right?
Yeah.
Over the time, they didn't stop talking because they weren't rapping together.
Yeah,
However, it came
obviously. Yeah.
about. They're releasing an album in July, and I'm very excited for it because like Clips is one of those things where it's like I know them, but they weren't really kind of like by the time Malice became No Malice and stopped rapping, like they weren't really our generation. Just like Jay-Z really wasn't our generation, but then he kept rapping. Right, he started in the '90s and things. So I think this is excited for a lot of like sort of like rap heads and things like that. And so that's it.
Period.
Clips is dropping an album in July, and
Period.
that's the show.
It is.
As always, we want to thank you for listening. You can follow the show on Instagram and on YouTube at Get Defensive Sports Network. You can also follow us on TikTok at GD Sports Network. And we will catch you next week.
Bye, y'all.